Good morning, good evening. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing, we wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. Apologize for interrupting our biblical series, but kind of got to comment on the news when it's hot. And actually, I'm already a little bit behind. So if you want, there's some playlists for the biblical readings. And without any further ado, let's start talking about the big trucker protest this weekend. First of all, kudos to the truckers for keeping it peaceful. Honestly, I'm sure there were incidents where some idiot went in, got drunk, got into a fight with his friends, blah, blah, blah. The sort of thing happens at any protest. But I mean, overall, the truckers did it peacefully. They protested in a meaningful manner. And aside from the few flaws I'm going to point out, I think they made their point. They did get a lot of popular support, but they also did some damage they didn't really think about when all this was put together. Top marks for intentions, no arguments there. But I'm going to peel back the veil of trucking a little bit and the veil of politics. Well, maybe we'll go into politics first, so I'm sure that'll hook more people. First of all, for some crazy reason, the truckers decided they were going to go and protest on the weekend. Now, admittedly, they were trying to do that so they could not inconvenience their employers, and yeah. The only problem with that is two major factors. Politicians aren't around on the weekends. Now, I'm not going to give you some spiel about politicians are lazy, they take their time off, blah, blah, blah. No. A politician can tell you now, 6 months in advance, what they're going to be doing. They're being booked into fundraisers, galas, speaking events, cutting ribbons at places, blah, blah, blah. They have all these commitments. Or, sometimes they do go on vacations. But either way, Parliament Hill in Ottawa is a ghost town on the weekends. So I think one of the things contributing to the trucker protest was the fact that the bigwigs were all out of town. There was nobody there to order a Tiananmen Square or, anything of that nature. And props to the police. They did a pretty good job at managing it. The other major problem is, and I guarantee, I've got 2 decades of experience in the transportation industry, so I'm not exactly speaking out of nowhere here. But I guarantee every one of those truckers went to Ottawa and either had a load that was going through to Rwanda, Temagami, or places like that. The ones that didn't are asking their employers for loads out. Ottawa's a dead zone. Trying to find freight there, it's like trying to find life on another planet. It's possible, it's just not something that's in our wheelhouse at the present time. So a few companies got very lucky, got loads out with pennies on the dollar, and they're laughing all the way to their boss saying, look at this. The truckers wound up losing their company's money. Now, the truckers are willing to make that sacrifice. I understand. Some of them are moving around. I saw some had nothing on the back, and they're there just to show their support. Then we have those idiots. Yes, I'm talking about the white power Nazi protesters, the people that we don't like. I'm starting to think there's a crack team of them. Well, not crack, aside from the fact that they resemble the crack in most people's rear ends. And their whole job is to go from place to place. And it's probably semi-organized. Now, I'm not going to jump far enough down the rabbit hole to say this is some sort of big conspiracy. I think it's a few really hardcore, dedicated people that are either retired or semi-retired, and they can afford to go to these events. Because everyone you go to, BLM protests, Occupy Wall Street protests, there's these same group of idiots that manage to show up everywhere. I would not be heartbroken if they were taken into custody, but no one seems to want to touch them. Either because they get that whole, I'm a sovereign citizen mentality, or whatever the case might be. The end result is Those protesters need to go. It's 2022. The world, as much as we might not like it, as much as we like to hold ourselves as better than everybody else, hey, we're all worms. We're worms squirming our way through their planet. It doesn't matter whether you're a white worm or red worm or blue worm or glow worm, whatever it is, we're still worms. And these idiots promoting hatred between us worms, yeah, they're the type of worms that give other people worms. Let's focus on the truckers for a second. Again, I bring a wealth of experience to this. I've been involved at every level, from senior management to driving in the transportation industry. And it wasn't a sequential progression. It wasn't I started as a driver, got promoted to a dispatcher, went from there to logistics. No. My career was very interesting path. And one thing I can pretty much guarantee each and every one of you is that at least 60 to 70% of those truckers are in violation of their logbooks. Now, what does this mean? There's the first type of logbook error that's actually pretty interesting. You see, a logbook has 4 columns from top to bottom, and each one is supposed to represent what the driver is doing. The top column is off. What does off mean? Anytime you are off, you are not in possession of the keys to the truck, so you're able to, go drinking with your buddy, hang out with your daughter, whatever the heck you are going to choose to do. You have no responsibility to the company. The second column is off duty in bunk, which means you are using your rest time. You are in control of the truck. You have the keys. The difference between off and in bunk is you are physically still in control of the truck. But it is a difference. And some people do live in their trucks. But one of the biggest mistakes I would catch would be when I audited safety, which I did a great deal, because when we're trying to figure out whether a driver can do a given run, you have to figure out, hey, what are they recording in their logbooks? So that way, can I send them to California, or do I got to find somebody else? But I guarantee you, my personal experience, 60% of drivers recorded themselves as being off duty instead of off duty in bunk when they were not at their home terminals, which is a glaring mistake. Probably about 5% forgot to put themselves in the right section of the logbook at all. That's just a thing that happens. Again, props to the police where they showed restraint and didn't decide to go around and bust heads. But see, this sounds like I'm nitpicking here, and in a way I am. But the reason why these logbooks were invented, and the reason why they're the reason why they're what's the word I'm looking for? Really trying hard to enforce them to the point that they're even computerized and satellite updated, is because drivers are notorious for moving around without recording things properly. And fatigue driving is absolutely a real thing. I've had some drivers walk in after 3 hours. They've said, "Oh, I'm supposed to be here at 1 o'clock." I'm like, but you left here at 10. Your logbook has to have 10 hours off, so I cannot put you on the road. And in good companies, management has backed me up. In bad companies, management hasn't. So that's pretty much one of my first tests when I'm in a company is I find the drivers and I go to management and say, this guy's in violation. Now, remember what I said about it being hard to get loads out of Ottawa? Well, some of those drivers are just going to sit there until their management authorizes them to come back, which means at this point, many companies basically are sitting with their fleet in a place that they can't get to and can't fulfill their contracts. So don't be surprised if at the end of January, they start talking about how it was a huge loss of productivity and stuff like that, because these truckers came from across Canada, and there were quite a few of them. I don't have an exact numbers, but just the photos and the snippets that I saw, yeah, there were a lot. It's not like I saw the same 3 trucks going around the block. There were a lot. And that means a lot of people just aren't where they need to be today. And from a former management point of view, former senior management point of view, that's a killer. Because you have commitments to customers and your guys in Ottawa, you can't bring them back empty because, that's basically $500 to $1,000 depending on what the truck has on it. that you just simply can't afford to throw out the window. The impacts from this is a mixed one. Again, first of all, I have to congratulate the truckers. Proper organization, proper implementation. The only thing they messed up on was showing up on the weekend. But in all honesty, they weren't going to get there during the week because that's when they make their money. So, yeah. I think realistically, the same protest would have been better if they had organized it city by city. Canada doesn't have that many major capital cities. So, you go from, say, Montreal, Quebec City, Toronto, Ottawa, Winnipeg, Regina. I don't really know how effective that protest is going to be, but that would do the same job. It would make sure the trucks are staying local, so you can start taking them off duty and using it as a personal move, which is another trick in the driver's logbooks. I think that would have been way more effective. And then when you start getting multiple cities being inconvenienced, not inconvenienced, that is the wrong word. Multiple cities being exposed to the importance of truckers and what they can do. Because again, this is a flex, and it's a good flex. It's not the bad kind of flex. Hey, look how tough I am. It's like, hey, look how many we are, and look how important we are. They didn't purposely shut down Ottawa. That's just sheer weight of numbers they could. And I think they should have done that in every single city to remind everybody. You see, it's easier for us in the various places around the world to sit back and say, look at that. That looks horrible. It's another thing if we had to experience it. Because a lot of things reopened this weekend in Ontario. So if they had been blocking off the downtown core and people were trying to get down there, the impact would have been way more dramatic than shutting down Ottawa, which, I mean, what? You're going to inconvenience someone going to a Senators game? Okay, some weddings and bar mitzvahs and funerals, it's very bad for them, but, it would have been better to have a city-by-city spreadsheet, because let's pick Toronto, for example. People would have come from as far as Windsor. They might have come from as far as Kingston. And I know that because another organization I'm part of, that's how far people come, or used to be willing to come. They've split the district up. But that's how far they would come just to gather together for our own celebrations. So, what's the end story of this? Good idea, but it needed to be better executed. Better organization with the dispatchers, the drivers, stuff like that to try to make things work. More local representation. And if you shut down Ottawa when the politicians are not there, it's simply not effective. Legality of it, again, we're not going to see it right away, but there's a 7-day cycle. There's an 8-day cycle as well, but they've mostly gotten rid of it. Most places stick to a 7-day cycle because it's way easier to follow. And that's going to affect productivity. There's going to be a time when these hours need to be refilled. And yeah, there's also going to be a time where these drivers are going to say, I need to go home. Because you know what? They're humans. As much as they like being in their truck, they have a wife, they have a kids, they have the partners, whatever it is, or they just have a place that they want to go where everybody knows their name. And that comes up. You've been on the road for 4 or 5 weeks. I haven't seen many drivers go much longer than 5 weeks on the road. And those are the ones that literally live in the trucks. Even after that, they want to have a couple days where they can do whatever the heck they want. And that's just the nature of the beast. So anyway, like I said, good protest, good concept, some hiccups in execution, but the most important thing is it was peaceful. And everybody has the right to peaceful assembly. We didn't hear any of this, these are the safe protest zones. We didn't hear anything like that. Overall, it was pretty good. I would like to see more protests like that. With that being said, we're going to bring this episode to a close. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to get the merchandise, which are the books. You can buy the ebooks for 99 cents, which is less than a cup of coffee per day. And you might just learn something too. No matter what, we hope you, the truckers, and everybody else has a fantastic day.